city where you're dialing from. If you're dialing in from outside of India, again, let us know the city as well. I see a lot of people from Bangalore, Mumbai, Vizag, Visakhapatnam. Okay. I saw someone from Nigeria. Okay, this is going too fast, but keep those responses coming in. It's always exciting to see where the audience is coming from. We are already over 130 people plus in this room, so it's great to see the enthusiasm. I'm sure NYU, the Tandon School of Engineering, does attract a lot of interest, so I'm sure you're excited to be here. But keep those responses coming in. I saw someone from Pakistan as well. I see quite a few people from Hyderabad, Bangalore, Coimbatore. So tech hubs in India, all these cities have really strong engineering campuses. So I'm going to change this question. If you can type out if you type out your undergraduate institution name, if any of you are dialing in from Vellore Institute of Technology, press, just type in VIT. So I see NIT Srinagar coming in. SRMIST, we were on your campus very recently with our STEM tour delegation, the NIT Surathkal, VIT Pune, Manipal Institute of Technology, Centurion University. All right, I see NIT Bhopal, PES University, right? IIT Dharwad. Okay, great. So this is what I wanted to see. Excited audience, people who really want to, who are looking to apply to NYU-Tandon this year. With that, let me kickstart this session. We have a very interesting speaker with us today. But before I get into her introduction, I'm going to do my introduction and take a minute to do a plug-in as well. My name is Sanjay Dhingra. I'm a co-founder at Seed Global Education and the chief operating officer at the company. We are a firm which specializes in such interactions. We facilitate interactions between top schools outside of India with candidates, prospective students in India, Asia, Middle East, and now in Africa as well. I'm sure a lot of you have connected with us in the past. You have either met us at one of our campus tours, or you have either you have met us at our campus tours or attended one of our master classes with some of the schools or interacted with us at some place or the other. And it's really great to see your continued interest in this interaction as well. Before I start today's session, what I want to do is run two poll questions very quickly. Our session today is about making an application to NYU-Tandon School of Engineering, making your MS application to the school. So what I want to know firstly is how many of you are really applying for the 2024 intakes. So if you're able to see the poll question on the screen right now, the question is which intake or intakes are you interested in applying for MS programs in the US? Are you targeting the 2024 intakes? So when I say 2024 intakes, it could be spring, it could be fall. Again, for 2025, it could be spring, fall. And if you're undecided, then that's the third option. So let us know which intakes are you targeting or which intake are you targeting for MS programs in the US? Those of you who are responding in the chat, just a quick question, just a quick request. The poll is live. If you can just click on the poll button and respond over there, that would be great. If you're not able to, if you're dialing in from your cell phone and not able to see the poll question on your screen, there are three dots at the bottom right of your screen. Just click on that, click on polls, and you'll be able to see the poll, which is live right now. I have around 175 responses already, 250 plus people in this room. So I'm going to wait for a few more seconds. Hopefully, I'll touch the 200 mark. So keep those responses coming in. Let us know which intake are you targeting for MS programs in the US. Okay, I'm going to wait for the last 3 seconds. If you haven't responded, please do so now. And with that, I'm going to end the poll and share the results as well. So as you can see, 68% of the people in this room are targeting the 2024 intake. So you are making your applications just around now. So maybe the round one deadline or the round two deadlines and so on. Around 15% are targeting the 2025 intake, so early starters over there, and 18% are undecided as of now, so maybe 2024 or 2025, or undecided about applying either, so they are the fence sitters as of now. So that was my first poll question for today evening. Evening for those of you who are in India, or afternoon for those of you in Africa and elsewhere. My next poll question, which is going to go live on the screen right now, is what aspect of making the application is most terrifying for you? What do you find most scary when you're applying to an MS program in the United States? Is it writing the SOP that scares you? Is it getting a good GRE score that scares you? Is arranging the letters of recommendations that is something that scares you? Are you scared about your UGC GPA? I surely was when I was applying to MBA programs or master's programs. So yeah, if that's something that you're scared of, then that could be an option. If you think that you don't have a strong enough extracurriculars or internships track record or profile, then that could be one of the options to look at. If you're scared about funding your studies, then that's an option. Or if it's something completely different than this, something else, then that's an option as well. So I'm going to keep this poll open for another 5 seconds. I already have 170 people who have responded to this poll. So I'm sure this is an exciting topic. And since you're looking to apply to MS programs, I'm sure you have some concerns about one or the other aspect. So keep the response coming in. I see someone chatting in the in the chat box saying scared about money. So I'm gonna do a quick plug-in over here as I promised. We do have special scholarships for NYU-Tandon. Liana very kindly has agreed to a scholarship which goes up to 50% of the tuition fee, then multiple scholarships that go up to around 25% of the tuition fee as well, plus application fee waivers to attendees of this session. So stay put in this session. We will talk about funding as well. But let me end the poll now and share the results as well. So as you can see, uh, as I could have guessed, majority of people are worried about funding their studies. So that is something that scares most people, followed by writing the SOP. So SOP is a scary topic still. Then I see the next most scary topic or terrifying topic is the UGC GPA. So 15% of the people are worried about their current undergraduate CGPA, followed by securing a good GRE score, letters of recommendations, extracurricular track record, and something else as well. Great. With that, let me segue into this session and do the introductions for our speaker today. So today we have Liana Corvallis, who's the Director of Enrollment Marketing and Recruitment at NYU-Tandon School of Engineering. As, of course, I'm assuming most of you in this room are from a science background or an engineering background. Almost all of you would have known of Tandon already, so needs no introduction. The school needs no introduction as such. Talking a little bit more about Liana. Liana holds a MA in International Relations and Affairs from Elliott School of International Affairs at George Washington University and has spent over 18 years evaluating and admitting applicants at George Washington University, Westminster College, and now at NYU-Tandon School of Engineering. With that, I'm going to hand you over to Liana to run you through her presentation. She's going to talk a little bit about NYU and then talk about the application requirements for NYU and give you some tips on how you can ace the application. And then we are going to ask her a lot of questions. So you can ask your questions to Liana in the Q&A box that is active now. You can also upvote questions asked by others so we know which are the most important, most relevant questions. And I'll pick the most upvoted questions to ask Liana post her presentation. With that, the floor is over to you, Liana, to take us through your presentation.
All right, thank you so much. Let me share my screen here. Get my presentation up. Okay, so as Sanjay mentioned, my name's Liana Corvallis. I'm the Director of Enrollment Marketing and Student Recruitment at NYU-Tandon School of Engineering. I have been working here for a little over 5 years now, over 6 years, and I have to say it is one of the best places I've ever worked. And I personally believe that New York City is the greatest city in the world. So I'm extremely happy and also extremely proud to be sharing with you our institution. I'm just going to give a little brief overview of the school, just so you have some context before we go straight into applications, for those of you who haven't been to one of our presentations. We were originally founded in 1854 as the Brooklyn Collegiate and Polytechnic Institute. And since that time, so we were the second oldest engineering school in the United States. In 2014, we merged with New York University, who did not have an engineering school at the time. So we became fully the engineering school for New York University. And then in 2015, we received a very generous donation of $100 million from Chandrika and Ranjan Tandon, which is how we got our name. And that money has gone to really increase our facilities, increase our faculty, our reputation, and really help us to take things to the next level. One of those things we've been working on over the past few years is really solidifying what it is that we want to be known for. And we've really solidified about 7 areas of research excellence. These areas are not comprehensive of everything going on at Tandon. For example, we have a very highly ranked financial engineering program, which is sought after by students from all over the world. But these areas, these 7 areas, are some of the important research areas that span across all of the disciplines and programs at NYU-Tandon. Some of our rankings, just really quickly, even though as choosing a graduate program, rankings are not the number one thing you should be looking for. You should be looking for fit in terms of program and location, that sort of thing. We have been ranked number 31 for best global universities. We're also number 37 among best U.S. engineering schools in the top 10% of all engineering schools in the country. And number 24 from Times Higher Education Best World University Rankings. Some other things, just to provide context to what we're going to be talking about in a minute. In terms of our school size, NYU itself is one of the largest universities in the country. We have, over 60,000 students that span across all of our different schools. At the engineering school, we have just over 8,000 students total. So our campus, as you know, is located in Brooklyn, while the main campus is located in Washington Square. So although you have access to all of the facilities and activities and wonderful things that come with a large university, you also have a small community feel at the engineering school where you will be able to recognize the people you see on campus, get to know your professors, that sort of thing, because of the number of students we have in the engineering school. I also wanted to provide a little bit of context. I know there was some trepidation around scores or GPA, that sort of thing. Obviously, these are a GPA based on a 4.0 scale, but our minimum GPA requirement, we say, is a 3.0. This is, for some programs, this is a strict cutoff, but for a lot of programs, based on the rest of your profile, they will consider applications below a 3.0. If for some reason you have, some backlogs or some grades that maybe you aren't so proud of that brought down your CGPA, a good practice in your application is to include an explanation of if there was some extenuating circumstances. Some people have, family situations or something, like during COVID, there are a lot of people who got sick and were not able to perform the way that they wanted to during a semester or something like that. So if there was some extenuating circumstance with your GPA, that is something that is appropriate to mention in your application. This average GPA is taken from all of the people who applied last year, who were admitted last year. So our average GPA across all of our programs, which we have 33 of, was a 3.61. So keep that in mind as you're applying. And remember that this is an average. So that means 50% of the people had lower than a 3.61. So keep that in mind as you're applying as well. We'll talk a little bit more about scores later on in the presentation as well. But right now, almost all of our programs are not requiring the GRE. The GRE is optional for the majority of our programs. The reason I included GRE average scores on this slide is because it's still a question that we get asked. So you can kind of see what the expectation is or was when we required the GRE. But again, it is optional. So these scores are just what people submitted last year. This is a list of all of our programs. I won't go through the list one by one, but just wanted to give you an idea of how much we are spanning across all the different disciplines at NYU, and that there is a lot of different things, a lot of different directions you can go when you come to NYU. I also wanted to highlight our bridge program really quickly. We do have a program called the NYU-Tandon Bridge. It's a 100% online program. It's a certificate, but it's specifically designed for people who may not have a background in computer science or programming, but really want to follow a STEM master's degree, or they want to switch from, one engineering discipline to computer science or to another programming related field. So you can see the topics that are covered within the bridge program here. These are the type of courses that, for example, we have a lot of people wanting to get into the MS in computer science. that may not have had, that maybe they came from mechanical engineering background or something. That is possible, but the computer science department will be looking specifically for these types of courses on your transcript. So if you did not receive these types of courses in your undergraduate degree, then the bridge program is a good option for you to prepare to apply for that program. These are all of the programs that that draw people from the bridge program. Again, for most of these, you don't have to have a programming background except for computer science and cybersecurity, but it definitely helps. If you have any more questions about this later on, I'm happy to answer them as well. This was a very brief just intro before we get deep into the application process, but we do have some options for finding out more information. One is to talk to a current student from your department. We have a chat feature on our website where you can connect with students from your program or other students from India who are already at Tandon. So that's one good resource to take advantage of. And then, of course, our website has a lot more information about the program specifically. All right, so the way I'm going to frame this next part of the presentation is specifically talking about the application requirements for NYU-Tandon. Of course, these application requirements are similar to all the other programs you may be applying to, and the different elements will go into detail about the different elements of the application. So hopefully I'll be able to answer a lot of your questions and concerns that you have about this process. First of all, just talking about deadlines. Our spring deadline has already passed, but coming up is our big deadline, December 1st. This is our priority deadline for MS programs and the final deadline for PhD programs. We get a lot of questions about the difference between our priority deadline and also our regular February 15th deadline. As an undergrad, you may have heard of like a binding decision or something like that for priority. Early decision is binding. That is not something at the master's degree that is a thing. So the priority deadline, the advantages of the priority deadline are that you will get first consideration. I will say the majority of our applications are now coming in December 1st, so it is good to get in with that group. The way the faculty look at these applications after December 1st is they will divide them into 3 different groups. So they will look at them and see, okay, these students definitely we're going to admit. Then they have a group where they'll say these students we're definitely not going to admit. And then there's a middle group where they may hold off and say, okay, well, these students are pretty good, but let's see who else comes in on the February 15th deadline. So there is a slight advantage in applying to the December 1st deadline, but I always tell students that it's more important for you to have your absolute best application than it is to get it in by December 1st. So for example, if your GPA, if you would really like to see the grades from this current semester, you would really like to send those in as part of your application, or if you maybe didn't meet the English requirement and need to retake the TOEFL or IELTS, or for example, if you're applying for an IDM program, integrated design and media, and you need to do a little bit more work on your portfolio. There's a lot of reasons that maybe it is advantageous to wait till February 15th. I would do everything you can to get in by the priority deadline. But again, if you cannot put together your best possible application by December 1st, then February 15th is fine. And we will be accepting and reviewing applications at that time. Okay, so the application has a lot of different pieces. The first piece is the online application form. This is something that you should start as soon as possible. You don't need to wait until you have all of your application materials together to start the application. I would start the form, and then you can slowly submit the pieces of the application as you receive them. Once you submit the form, you will be asked for an application fee of $90. However, we will be sending an application fee waiver to all of you who have attended the session. You'll get a code that you can enter in that application form, which will waive that fee. The benefit of starting the application as early as possible is that you will then have access to the application checklist, and you will be able to receive regular reminders about these missing items, which is very helpful as you're going through the process. And you will also, for those of you applying to a PhD program, as soon as you start the application form, your name goes directly to the PhD review committee. So they'll know that you are a person that's applying to their program. They should be looking out for your materials. And those who review PhD applications are generally very cognizant of that. They're very excited to see who is interested in their program. And so that is one way to get your name in front of them as early as possible. The next and most important thing to submit are your transcripts. And we need these from all previously attended institutions of higher education. So if you, attended more than one, if you transferred at some point, if you did an exchange program somewhere, we will need all of those transcripts. Ideally, we will be able to receive your official transcripts and proof of degree if completed directly from your university. That's the ideal scenario, but we know that's not, especially for those of you who are still in school, that's not an option yet. And in that case, we will accept copies of your official transcripts. And these can be submitted for your application review. However, before you enroll, we will still need those official transcripts and proof of degree from your institution. So when I say copies of official transcripts, I don't mean that you printed out a grade report from your online portal. I mean that we need an actual official copy from your institution of your actual transcripts. So you will be able to upload those yourself though, but we will not accept any sort of, like I said, grade report or other unofficial document that may show your academic progress. In terms of exams, so I mentioned that the GRE is optional. This also, we have one program, the Management of Technology program also accepts or used to accept the GMAT. That is also optional at this point. So if the other schools you're applying to do not require the GRE, then I would not submit it, not worry about it. Don't go through the process, focus on the other pieces of your application. I get a lot of questions, and I'm sure some of you probably already asked them. I haven't been checking the Q&A, but about if you should still submit the GRE, if it will help or hurt your application. I will say that for the GRE, if you have to take it for another school that you're applying to, another program, and you got a very good score, then you can send it to us as well. That's a low an easy lift for you to do, is to send a very good score to us. I am not going to, some programs may consider that, some programs may not. If you have just an average score, doesn't really matter. All of the departments have developed a system this year where they are not using the GPA to review applications, so it is not necessary. And if you have a lower score than you were expecting, then please don't submit it. I don't know if it will hurt your application, but I wouldn't submit it. I got an email the other day from a student who had sent us their scores, but they weren't as good as they were expecting, and they were asking if I could remove them from the application. That is not something that we will do in our office, that we can do. And so if you do send your scores, they will go through with your application. Again, all the departments have developed a system of reviewing applications that does not require the GRE. So you shouldn't be worried or concerned either way. It's not going to be a big part of your application either way. So the next test would be your English requirement. So we accept all of the exams listed on this slide: TOEFL, IELTS, Cambridge, PTE, and Duolingo. All the minimums are listed on our website. With the English score, it doesn't, as long as you meet the minimum requirement, it doesn't matter how high or how low you get. Someone who gets a 90 on the TOEFL is equally as considered as someone who gets a 120. It is a minimum threshold. If you do not meet that minimum, so for example, our TOEFL minimum is 90. If you got an 89 on the TOEFL, you would not be considered. There's no exceptions for that minimum cutoff. And these scores must be sent officially from the testing agencies. If the scores are expired, they will not be considered. So they need to be active, not expired, sent directly from the testing agencies. Excuse me. In terms of your resume or CV, this is pretty standard. You aren't going to have a ton of work experience. Probably you're very early in your careers. So I would put on, the basics about, structure of what you've done, including where you've gone to school, what you're studying, and then any work experience, any internships you have, anything you've done in that way, and then also any sort of research that you've been involved in that you feel is relevant to this program. This is going to be an important document, kind of like an outline where faculty will look at the resume or CV and be like, okay, this is this student, this is what they've done. This is the structure of, who they are in some ways. So it's even appropriate if you were like, part of some sort of student organization or something like that to put that on the resume as well. Now the essay is a place where you can really round out that story. So they're looking at the resume and CV to see the structure of who you are, and the essay is where you can really put in more of the essence of who you are and why you are coming to grad school. So one thing when you're writing the essays is to don't just regurgitate what you've put on the resume or CV. You have a very limited amount of documents to explain who you are and why you're a good candidate for this program. So there's no need to repeat information. What I would use the essay to do are a couple things. First of all, you can use the essay to elaborate on something that's on your resume. So for example, if there was some sort of course or research or internship, some sort of experience you had that you've listed on your resume that was impactful to you, that really helped to change the direction that you're going, or to really solidify why you want to go to grad school, that's a great thing to elaborate on in the essay. So you could mention it in the resume and then elaborate on the essay. The other thing that we're looking for in the essay is to really find out your focus. Why is it that you are applying to NYU? What is it that we can do for you as an institution to help you achieve your goals? And how are you going to be contributing to the institution yourself? Different graduate schools are going to have different types of prompt questions. So for example, this year on our essay, we have actually included 2 prompts that we want you to answer. And part of this is because we wanted to try and make the essay a little bit more personal than it has been in the past. We really wanted to be able, this is a change that we made, in helping the faculty to review applications without the GRE requirement. We have to have more information. So we wanted to really make it a little bit more personal to figure out who you are and if you're going to be a good fit for the institution. But as you're writing these essays, either for us or for another institution, just keep in mind that what we want to find out is like who you are, why you're applying to our program, what you think that we can help you with in terms of achieving your goals, and what you are going to bring to the institution. We also say this a lot, but I know you're applying to a lot of schools. It's a very stressful time, and you're repeating a lot of the same materials, but please be mindful of the details. Don't submit an application to NYU that says, that you've always wanted to apply, you've always wanted to attend Columbia. That's not something that looks good in an application review committee. Then lastly, I want to talk about these other documents. So letters of recommendation, we require 2, but you can submit up to 3. It doesn't, the number of it's not like a trick question where we say we require 2, but those who submit 3 get an advantage. That's not how this works. Basically, the recommendation, if you feel like you excuse me, let me put it this way. So the recommendation letters are another way that you can tell your story. The vast majority of our recommendation letters are basically a letter that says, this student so-and-so is a great student. They were in my class. I think they would do great at NYU. That letter is fine. That letter is perfectly fine. It meets the requirement. It doesn't help or hurt your application. It is what it is. And that's the majority of the letters that we receive. It's very rare that we get a recommendation letter that says, please don't admit this student. They are not good. That's extremely rare, almost never happens. The letters that really add something to the application are a little bit more specific, and you should be thinking about this when you're picking who your recommenders are. So as I mentioned earlier, you have very few pieces of your application to tell your story, and so that you should think of the letters of recommendation as another way to tell your story. So for example, say you did a research project or some sort of other project for one of your courses that you were pretty proud of, and that kind of helped you decide, okay, I definitely want to go into electrical engineering to study this specific thing. It's completely appropriate to go to your recommender and say, could you write this letter for me? I'm applying to NYU-Tandon. And also, could you mention this project that I did? That's completely appropriate to prompt a recommender to write about a certain topic. And in fact, in general, recommenders really appreciate that, to be able to be given some sort of structure or something that you want to hear from them specifically. So think about that as you're picking your recommenders. We also get a lot of questions about, does it have to be academic or can it be professional? I would say that third recommend is a great place to ask for a professional recommendation. So if you had a great internship or so a volunteer opportunity that you were involved in, third recommendation would be a great place to ask for their recommendation. In terms of supporting materials, if you are applying to a PhD program, it's a good practice to include any significant project or research that you've done, any sort of writing, anything else that you feel like would help show the PhD committee what you can produce, what you've been involved in, that sort of thing. For a master's student, it's not as important. Our master's programs are course-based. There is research involved, but they're not admitting you based on their expectations for your research and writing. They're admitting you based on your good fit for the program, your interests, and how they think we can help you achieve your goals. Some programs will require an interview, especially PhD potentially, but there are some programs that you'll see when you're applying. They're going to have you do like a 1-minute video interview as you are filling out the application. And so that is kind of a fun way for you to show who you are as well. Well, this is a basic structure of everything I wanted to talk about. I'm sure there are a lot of questions, and I'm happy to move into those now. So Sanjay, if you want to let me know maybe what I missed or what people are still concerned about, I'm happy to answer those questions.
Sure, Liana. We do have a number of questions come in. In fact, over 41 questions as of now. So you can imagine you're going to have a busy evening. But let's start with the most upvoted question. And this is by Shravan Kunti, who's asking so you see in India, a lot of the CGPA scales tend to be either on 10-point scale or a 7-point scale, or some people get a percentage as well. How do they convert, or how do they check if they meet the 3.0 out of 4 criteria for NYU-Tandon or not? And how does that conversion take place? Any guidance on that front?
Yeah, that's a great question. So The way that it works is once you submit your application to us, we have an internal credential evaluation service that we use. We have a contract with an agency that does all 12,000 of our applications that need the credential review. So your application will be sent directly over to them. In terms of whether your CGPA meets the requirement, basically, you can look online at different GPA converters, but it is kind of a complicated process because we also look at what institution you're from. And so a CGPA from one institution in India may not be equivalent exactly to a CGPA from another institution. So the best guideline, I would say, would be to use the online GPA converters. But again, many of our programs will take an application with lower than that equivalent. So definitely, if you feel like you're a good candidate, you should still apply.
So Shravan, I hope that answers your question. Even to others, just a quick advice over here. You can't go back and change what's already there, right? You can't change your CGPA now. So if you have a lower score, then do give an explanation. But I would recommend focus on the other aspects of the application and make sure that you strengthen the other aspects of the application if you're on the lower side of the CGPA scale. Great. The next most appropriate question, Liana, you have already covered this in your presentation quite in detail. This is around GRE. So GRE is optional. IELTS and TOEFL, those are mandatory, or even there's a waiver. IELTS or TOEFL is mandatory, right?
Yes, there is a waiver process, but I will say that the majority of students from India will not be qualified for a waiver. So a lot of people will apply for a waiver based on language of instruction. So if all your courses were in English, that is not something we waive the TOEFL for. The only thing would be if, for example, you had maybe studied part of your degree in another country that is an English-speaking country, if you have US citizenship or UK citizenship for some reason, if you had significant work experience in an English-speaking country, those are things maybe you could apply for the waiver. But just for a general student from India who has been instructed in English during university, that is not something we'll waive the TOEFL for.
All right. And the follow-on to this question, and this is the same question continuing from what Suniti asked, if GRE is optional, then how does one become eligible for scholarship, or what is the criteria you look at while deciding a scholarship award?
Yeah, so the main criteria now for scholarship is just going to be your CGPA. So we will look at your academics, we will look at, the grades you've received specifically in the courses that are relevant to your major that you're applying to, that sort of thing. So these are merit-based scholarships that we offer. Well, I guess I should say NYU offers their own merit-based scholarships. The SEED scholarships also have some other requirements attached to them, or application requirements attached to them. But for us, the majority is your CGPA.
All right. And the following question is similar. So this is Nihar's question. How impactful is GPA for admission to the computer science graduate program specifically? And if someone has an excellent profile, then does the expectation on GPA go down? And can an excellent profile offset the impact of a low CGPA, basically? I know you covered this in your presentation, but just to reinforce for those who came in later.
Yeah. So the computer science program specifically is one of our most competitive programs. So we get more applications for that program than any of our other programs. And so the way that it works is that the computer science department will look at all the applications they've received, and they will usually pick a GPA and cut off the bottom half of GPAs. But then they will take that top half and really look into all the different application requirements. So if your GPA is quite low, for the computer science program, you may not be considered at all. But if it's just below average, if it's like pretty close to the cutoff but not quite there, then they will look at your profile. They'll look at what you've done, what you've studied, what you put in your essay, if you have any supplemental documents or explanations of why maybe you got a little bit lower GPA, that sort of thing. So Like I said, we get a lot of applications for this program, usually over 1,000, couple thousand sometimes. And so there will be people that are not considered based on their GPA, but those are generally much lower than the 3.0 cutoff that I'm mentioning.
All right. And in this particular case, if someone has a really excellent GRE score, let's say a 330, 334 plus, then does the person stand a chance even if their CGPA is in the bottom half?
At this point, that because the GRE is optional, that is not something that they're considering. And so again, if you have a very good GRE score, you should submit it for this program for computer science, but it would not offset a very, very low GPA. It would just help you if you feel like maybe you're just a little below average.
Great. Nihar, I hope that gives you some indications of guidance over there. Liana, the next question I have is from Harshan. He, I think, met us at the SRM campus when we were with the STEM tour in September. He's got an 8.93 CGPA, couple of research papers, but he's pursuing ECE at SRM. He wants to pursue his master's in data science. So, firstly, a check: does NYU-Tandon offer the data science program, or is that with the New York University overall?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a lot of different options for data science. The program in data science, the master's in data science, is based in the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. So that's in our Center for Data Science in the Courant School for Mathematics. And so I don't have a lot of information about that program. However, at Tandon, we do have a data science concentration within our computer science program. So a lot of people follow that. And then we also have a very interesting data science program, which is focused specifically on data in urban problems. And so if you are interested in using your data science skills to work within a city environment and try and solve those types of urban problems, we have a great program for that at Tandon as well.
All right. So, Harshan, for you, the direction is that if you're looking at data science and you're specifically looking at NYU-Tandon, it's basically the comp science program with a specialization, with a pathway towards data science is what you can look at. Liana has following question is, since he comes from an ECE background, does that limit his prospects of getting into the comp science program?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that we had this bridge program for students who didn't come from a comp sci background, but I will say that, and I mentioned those courses. I'm trying to see if I can pull this up right now, but the courses that the Computer Science Review Committee are looking for are, they will look on your transcript to see if you have coursework in discrete math, data structures and algorithms, computer architecture, and if you have some computer programming. If you have all of that on your transcript as an EC student, then you would not need to take the bridge program and you would be qualified, no questions. So they're really looking more for specific coursework than for the program.
So, Harshan, I hope that gives you clear guidance over there. Uh, Liana, the next question is from Ashmita, who's asking that does having multiple attempts at the GRE have any negative impact on the application? So we understand GRE is optional, but if in case one is submitting the score, does having multiple attempts make a difference?
No, it wouldn't make a difference.
All right, great. The next most important question, and across, so Nikita has asked this question twice, and across those two questions, it's got 8 upvotes. Nikita is targeting the 2025 intake, so an early start over here. And her question, I'm going to paraphrase it a little. Her question is mainly what can she do, or what can other applicants like her do who are targeting the 2025 or later intakes? What can they do today to be best prepared for the application to NYU?
Yeah, that's a great question. It kind of depends on what program you're applying to, but in general, as you're a younger student looking towards graduate school, I would just think about your experiences, kind of how I talked about them earlier, and like how do these experiences build you up as an applicant and tell the story of how you are getting to where you want to go. So for example, as a younger student, if you already know 100% for sure you want to study, AI and machine learning, then I would try and get experiences in that field, either research, internships, other interesting coursework, and really try and solidify your goals, I guess. Like I said, we're looking for people who are a good fit, who are passionate about certain subjects, and who we think will really excel and add something to our programs, and that who we think can help achieve their goals. Another thing that's interesting is, as a younger student, you may think, okay, I don't know exactly what I want to do. Try and explore those different options. Try and figure out what it is you love about, construction management or environmental engineering, and why. Graduate students are generally a little bit more mature, a little bit more focused on what they want to do, and we want to see that reflected in your application. Obviously, you're not going to have a million experiences when you come in. You'll have you're a young student who's at the beginning of their career, and so you'll have your goals, you'll have your aspirations, and you'll have a few experiences that really shaped who you are, and figure out how you're going to tell that story, and and like I said, gain experiences to help you solidify that your goals, whatever that is.
Great. That's wonderful advice, Nikita. I hope that does help you.
Also do really well in your courses. That helps too.
You heard CGPA does become an important criteria in the absence of GRE being optional. CGPA does become very important. So try to do your best on the academics as well. Liana, the next question is from Priyanka. She hasn't done any internships during her undergraduate program. Does that impact her negatively?
No. There's no we get asked a version of this question a lot, like, how many internships should I have? How many research papers should I have? That kind of thing. There is no secret formula for the number of things you need to have, and it's not like we're holding information to say, okay, well, if this student doesn't have 2 internships, then they will not be admitted. That's not how it works. An internship is a great experience for you to have because it helps you, again, solidify your goals, figure out what you want to do in your future, and how graduate school is going to help you with that. It is not like a requirement for your application or a requirement for graduate school by any means. It's just a piece of a story that tells who you are and why you want to go to grad school. Some people will take an internship, and the value of that internship is not like, oh, we're going to accept this person who did an internship and this person who didn't. But if your internship was like, okay, well, I thought I wanted to be in software development, but after I did this internship, I really realized that what I really want to do is work in the medical industry. That's why I'm applying to biomedical engineering. That's the importance of an internship. It's not just having an internship. So I hope that makes sense. If you already know what you want to do and you're telling a different story about your goals, no one's going to care if you have an internship or not.
Great. Okay, the next question, which has suddenly become very upvoted, and thanks to Varun's upvoting message to everyone, it is around, is it fine if if the SOP exceeds 2 pages, or is it mandatory to be limited to 2 pages itself?
It's not mandatory, but I will say that we had 12,000 applications last year, and so you can imagine that faculty are not going to want to read more than 2 pages. So I would keep it concise, and we don't need to hear your whole life story. Again, you don't want to repeat what you've already said in your resume and CV, but it's not mandatory. If you go a little bit over 2 pages, it's going to be okay.
Liana, I'm going to take this opportunity to segue into a different line of questioning over here. This is around the role of artificial intelligence coming into play while making the SOPs or writing essays. I am guessing a lot of candidates are thinking that, hey, now making an application is super quick. I can just go to ChatGPT, generate something out of there, and submit my application in an hour's time. how do you filter out or how do you identify such candidates? And what do you do in case you identify candidates' essays or SOP being written by ChatGPT?
We're not using software. We're not trying to like catch you. We're not trying to like punish people who are using ChatGPT. We're an engineering school, so we appreciate AI. However, and if, for example, you're able to get ChatGPT to write a really good essay for you, then good for you. But in general, you're not doing yourself any favors by using AI. AI can't tell that story we're talking about. You can write a very generic, they could write a very generic essay. ChatGPT can write a very generic essay for you. But when you're competing against the number of students that we have applying to our programs, you are going to want to tell your story. That's what I'm trying. That's why we've changed the application to make it more personal since we took away the GRE. We want to know who you are. We want to know your goals. We want to know your path, if it included an internship or not, that sort of thing. We want to know personal details about you, and ChatGPT can't replicate that. So you're welcome to try it. You're welcome to use it. However, I don't think you're doing yourself any favors. I don't think it's really writing the story that we want to hear.
So it's the personal essay, so make it personal, let your story come out, share your genuine self, which possibly machine learning algorithms can't do for you. Great. The next question which I have is around the scholarship criteria. You already touched upon this. You already mentioned that CGPA does play a predominant role. But besides CGPA, what other factors come into or can possibly potentially impact their scholarship decision?
Yeah, like I said, the majority is your academics. These are merit-based scholarships. I will say that different departments have a different amount of scholarship money. So the other thing that you may have a friend who applied to one program who has a lower CGPA than you and they got a scholarship and you'll be outraged and not know why. But generally it's because there's different, some programs are much more competitive than others. Some programs have a bit more money to give out to students than others. So it really depends on your merit, but also what program you're applying to.
And I'm going to do a plugin for our scholarships once more. It's in the chat window right now. So if you see, there are links posted for the scholarship as well. If you are applying to NYU, you can apply for the Seed Scholarship Fund as well. NYU has committed 4 scholarships over there, one of 50% tuition fee waiver, 3 of 25% tuition fee waiver. Plus, of course, by attending this session, you have also made yourself eligible for an application fee waiver. So make the most of this opportunity. And if you are applying in the deadline is 1st of December, then you can also possibly sign up for more personalized conversation with Liana, which is scheduled for 21st of November. I've posted the Calendly link for that as well in the chat window right now. Great. Moving ahead to the following questions, and there are 93 questions in the box. I'm going to give a disclaimer. It's not going to be possible for me to pick up or for us to answer all the questions that you're asking. I'm going to pick up only the next 5 or 7 most upvoted questions. So if you can do me a favor, go to the questions, upvote the ones that you like, and I'm going to pick up the next 5 to 7 most upvoted questions to ask Viviana. We are hard on time over here. We just have another 10-15 minutes before we need to wrap up. So I'm going to pick up only the next 5 or 7 most upvoted questions. So this is a question from Arohi and currently the most upvoted question. Can they apply to multiple master's programs at the same time? Do you restrict them to apply to only one program or can they apply to multiple MS programs at NYU-Tandon at the same time?
At NYU in general, you can only apply to one program at a time per school. So you can only apply to have one active application for Tandon. But for example, if you are looking at our financial engineering program, you could apply for financial engineering at Tandon. You could apply for the financial engineering program at the School of Arts and Sciences, or you could apply to a program at the Stern School of Business. So you could have 3 applications at NYU, but only one per school. But I will say another question that kind of I get asked alongside that is, for example, if someone applied to a PhD program or any other master's program and they got denied, maybe they wanted to reapply for a master's after that, you can do that, but only one active at a time.
All right. I think this question about how do you convert 10-point CGPA India system to a 4-point, Liana has already answered that. If you missed that, you can go watch the recording of this session on our YouTube channel. It's on the Seeds YouTube channel. We'll also share the link tomorrow or WhatsApp, so you can watch it over there. And if you missed it, you can see Liana's response to this in the recording as well. Liana, one question which I want to bring in over here, since a lot of our audience is dialing in from Africa as well. The IELTS and TOEFL requirement for candidates applying from, let's say, countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Ethiopia, is it the same requirement as you mentioned for Indians, or is there something different for candidates from the African continent?
There's not for the continent, but for individual countries. For example, for Ghana, English is the national language in Ghana. So there is no English requirement for students from Ghana. If English is your national language, but for example, in like Cameroon or something, you've got the national language of French. So those students would be required to take the IELTS or TOEFL. So country by country, if your national language is English, if you're an English speaking country, then that is, there will be no requirement for you.
All right. And if they want to go check this out, where can they can find this information on the Tandon website? They can see the countries for which language is required for what specific.
I'm not 100% sure that that's listed, but once they start there, it's baked into the application. So once you've started the application, you should or should not have that requirement on your application checklist. If you think it's on there by mistake, you are welcome to submit a waiver. But again, you should know if your national language is English, and that would be the waiver for you.
Yana, next question is from Aditi. She's asking about NYU-Tandon scholarships, not the ones which are being given out through SEED, but the school's other merit scholarships. Do you require a separate application for those, or are they automatically considered for all the other merit scholarships?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier. Our scholarships, you don't need to fill out any other paperwork. So everyone who's admitted is automatically routed to the scholarship consideration. And again, these are not full scholarships, but they're partial scholarships based on merit.
Great. So for NYU-Tandon's, the school's merit scholarships, no separate application required besides your application. For the ones being given out through SEED, you need to submit a separate application. It's a very short application form, just requires you to submit your resume, one essay up to 500 words. Very simple application, shouldn't take you more than half an hour, 45 minutes. If you're using artificial intelligence smartly, then you may not need much long to do that either. The link for the application is in the chat window. You can apply for the SEED scholarship as well. If you're applying for the SEED scholarship fund, alongside you also need to submit the school admission application. Right, the SEED scholarship application is not a replacement for that. You can apply to the SEED scholarship fund, plus alongside you need to submit a school's application as well for the relevant program that you're applying for. Okay. The next question which I have, and currently it's the most upvoted question, so I'm going to pick up as I promised. It's amongst the next three questions which I'm going to pick up. This is from Ketan. He's saying, should a person with a 2.75 GPA even bother applying to NYU?
It really depends on the program, like most things, but if you, like I said, if you feel like you have a good application, if you feel like you have a reason to explain those grades, if there's been an uptick, for example, so if you had lower grades at the beginning, but since then, as you've gone through your bachelor's degree, you have increased your grades or you've done better academically, that's definitely something that faculty will be looking at, that sort of thing. So if you feel like, or maybe you were kind of floundering, you didn't really know what you wanted to do, and now you're like, you know exactly what you want to do. You want to study, water resource management. You have this goal. Those sort of things are important, but you will need to have some sort of explanation of why your GPA is a bit lower than the average or than the requirement.
All right, great. So the next, I'm going to take the last three questions now, and let me just see questions. Uh, Sorry, I missed the questions which I had in mind. Okay, great. So, Sai, your question, are SA and SOP the same? Yes, they are. So the personal SA and SOP, they are the same thing. Just wanted to clarify this very quickly. The question I'm going to pick up is from Abhay. What he's saying is that what if he gets a 6.5 in one section on the ICE test, but his overall score is above 7? Does it hurt his chances?
No, like I said, with the English score, as long as you meet the minimum, that's all we care about. We don't care if it exceeds the minimum. We don't care if some of the sections are lower. It is basically a threshold you have to pass to be able to even be considered. So they won't look at the breakdown or hold that against you.
Perfect. So till the time your overall is above a 7 or above, you meet the criteria basically. Okay, great. There are questions about the application fee waiver. Liana, if I understand the process correctly, in the next few days they'll get an email with a code that they can use to avail the waiver, or do they need to apply to NYU with the same email address that they used to register for today's session?
No, you will receive an email, and in the next couple of days, it will have a link to the application form as well as an application fee waiver code that you can use.
Perfect. So keep an eye out for that, and yep, that should help. Great. I think I've taken up most of the relevant questions. One question is around at-home GRE test. Are those scores accepted? I'm assuming yes, they are. Just confirming this.
Yes, I believe we'll accept those, but again, the GRE is optional, so it's not something that you need to worry about too much.
All right. And the last question I'm going to take up, this is going to be relevant for people with work experience. This has been asked by Deboshri Chatterjee. Uh, Her question is an LOR required both from education institution as well as from the workplace for people who have 4+ years of work ex? So if let's say someone is applying, someone with higher work ex is applying, do you necessarily need a recommendation from the education institution as well? Or can all the recommendations come from the workplace?
Well, if you're applying to a PhD program, it is going to be absolutely mandatory that you have at least one academic recommendation. If you're applying to an MS program, it's still highly recommended, but we understand that maybe you don't have any ties to your institution anymore. So if you absolutely cannot get an academic recommendation, then you can use professional references.
All right. Great. So I think I have taken up most of the relevant questions. I see 99 plus more unanswered questions. My apologies to all of you if I missed out on an important question. What I see though is most of the questions that have come in now are more personalized, specific to the individual. That's why I'm not picking those up. But we have answered most of the questions that we could. In case you still have an important question which has not been answered and you really need a response to that, then you can of course email NYU's team. Uh, I can imagine they are flooded with queries during this time, so expect a delay possibly in the response. But I understand Liana's team does respond to every question that they get, so you can always email the school. I'm gonna let Liana come in and give a disclaimer over there.
No, I put in the chat, our office email is engineering.gradinfo@nyu.edu. We have a whole team of people answering questions, including staff and our graduate assistants. We actually hire additional people at this time of year to help with the inbox. So our goal is to have an answer within 24 to 48 hours. So keep that in mind. If you don't get a response within 48 hours, you can definitely email us again, but that is our goal and what we're working towards. And hopefully we have enough people to be able to field all of your questions, but please reach out to us. Like I said, we have a team of people who are specifically hired just to manage that inbox. So everyone is ready to go. So send your questions.
Great. So that's wonderful. So help is available. If you have any questions, you can reach out to NYU's team and they will respond to you at the earliest. As I mentioned, if any of you are applying to NYU for the fall 2024 intake and targeting the priority deadline, which is the 1st of December, then you can sign up for the more detailed doubt clearing session, which Liana is doing for specifically for the priority deadline applicants. That's happening on the 21st of November. I've reposted the link to that in the chat box. It's a Calendly link. We have limited slots. We just have 7 slots across 2 sessions, so overall 14 candidates. Sign up only if you're applying for the priority deadline, which is the 1st of December. And if you have doubts that you want to clarify or have specific questions to ask Liana, only then sign up for that particular session. For the application fee waiver, Liana has already clarified the process. And as I said, as an attendee of this session, or if you've connected with us on any of our campus tours, or attended any of our previous master classes at SEED, then you're also eligible to apply for the exclusive scholarships that NYU is distributing through SEED this year. The link to apply to the scholarships is also in the chat window for your ready reference. With that, I hope all of you found this interaction useful. I still see 264 people in this room. Usually you see the attendance taper off, but the highest I saw was around 370. And still we have 260 plus people in this room. That speaks about how insightful this session has been. I hope the audience has found it useful. Thank you for taking out the time to attend this session. Thank you to Liana as well for taking out the time to do this session for us. I hope all of you have found this useful. All the best for those who are applying for the priority deadline, and keep connecting, keep attending our sessions, and we are happy to bring to you more such sessions in the future. Thank you, Liana.
Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you all in New York City.
Fingers crossed. With that, have a good evening, those of you who are in India or Africa, and good morning to those of you in the rest of the world. Have a great time. All the best. Take care.